Hey everybody, my name is Walsh. In my previous speech, I said that I'm into computer science. I'm a developer by trade, so today I'm going to give a speech on computer security. So what I'm going to do today is I'm just going to talk about the common vector of how you get malware or malicious software on your machine and how you can avoid it. Okay, so what I want to talk about first is just the current state of malware. Back in the 90s, when you first hear the word virus, you think of something you get an email from somebody and you say, okay, well, there's this goofy virus, like an example of a virus, like that would be the I love you virus back in the day. When you got an email and it's had a little goofy little picture that says I love you on it, and you click on it, you're like, all right, someone loves me, and then it's a virus, right? So that virus was one of the first major viruses. It cost $15 billion to business, according to George Jones, who's a tech expert. But what makes this virus different than modern viruses is the following. If you think of your computer as a castle, right? And if you can't see this, think of this picture as your computer, or this piece of paper as your computer, okay? The thing about this, about modern machines is that we create defenses on our machine, right? We make sure that not any software can just get on our machine willy-nilly. It has to actually, we have defenses, just like, a castle has parapets and the boiling oil and all that stuff. Well, machines also have those types of defenses. So think back in the day, if you're in your castle here, right, and you're hanging out and some brigands or barbarians come up and they say, hey, we want in your castle, just like the I love you virus, if you double click on something, you're essentially opening the gates to your castle and you're saying, come on in, it's cool. So they come in and then they cause havoc, right? But the thing about modern viruses, okay, is that whenever we get on the internet nowadays, we're essentially leaving the castle, okay? And the reason why I bring that up is because modern viruses, what happens is that, according to McAfee antivirus, 1 in 4 machines that go on the internet actually are infected with malware or malicious software, okay? So the reason why so many machines are infected is because nowadays, whenever we leave, or whenever we go on the internet, we're leaving the castle, okay? Because modern browsers like Internet Explorer actually have to run software to make fancy things happen on your machine. Like YouTube that you're viewing right now, that's an actual program that's executing code on your machine, okay? And so unless you want to be clicking OK to say, your machine saying, okay, is it okay if I run this flash code? Is it okay if I do this fancy thing on your machine? Is it okay if I look at this fancy cat on the picture on the internet? It doesn't want to do that every time, so it just runs data on your machine, okay? So the reason why that's dangerous is because now hackers hack for profit, okay? They don't do goofy pranks, like they don't create like smiley face backgrounds or whatever on your machine and say, ha, I got you. They make money from doing this type of stuff. So it's funny enough that actually the Russian mob, one of their main sources of income is paying Russian hackers to create code that actually will compromise your machine, okay? So the reason why I bring this up is because what happens is that a lot of people are now coding for what's most popular in use, okay? And so an example of that is, if you can see by this bar graph, okay, this big swath of blue right here is how many people actually use the Internet Explorer. It's actually 64% of all users on the internet use Internet Explorer. And the reason why that's dangerous is because these hackers actually will write code specifically to attack the Internet Explorer browser, okay? So now that I've completely freaked you guys out, let's look at some ways that we can defend from malicious code, okay? So one thing that, well, before I get to that, if you guys are, because I'm going to throw a bunch of links in different software that you guys may not be aware of, you can always take a look at this website after my speech to look at some links that I'm going to talk about here, okay? So, so the first thing we should all be doing, right, when we go on the internet is to go on to use browsers that are less popular. Things like, we might have heard of Mozilla Firefox, or things like Google Chrome, that's a new browser that came out. Stuff that's less popular because those hackers aren't going to write code for stuff that only like 5% of the user base uses. They don't have time for it, right? They want to write code that makes it, that most people will actually be affected by. Okay, so we want to be able to use less popular browsers, and we also want to enable Windows updates, and that'll be on the website. Okay, so we want to ensure that we're constantly allowing Microsoft to update. Okay, the next thing, okay, is to have if we want to have system-wide security. So, not only do you want to protect your browser experience, you also want to create your to protect your entire browser. The next thing you can do is use like a Macintosh or a Linux. Okay, according to Net Market Share, only 5% of users use a Macintosh. Okay, and it's the same principle as what we're talking about with the browser. Okay, we're ensuring that less people use that particular browser, so it's going to be more safe. Or you can use a Linux distribution, something like Ubuntu, which that'll also be on the website, and that's only used by 1% of the population. Okay. Next thing you can think about is if you're absolutely positively do not want anybody to get any kind of access to your machine, you can use a lot of stuff like server environments, like business critical data on a machine. You want to ensure you might want to have two boxes. Okay, one that you essentially use the internet for, and one that you have production data. Say like you're a graphics artist or something like that, and you don't want any of your data to be compromised. You can use that one machine that you use graphic arts on, not on the internet. Don't even connect it to the internet if you're absolutely paranoid about it. Otherwise, I would say the conclusion for you guys is to watch your behavior on the machine. Don't go on weird websites. Okay, just go on stuff that you trust, because that's the biggest thing you can do to avoid compromising your data on the internet. Okay, cool, you guys. Thank you.